Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Urban Scope podcast. Um, Remember to like and subscribe and definitely watch the videos. Um, so a question was posed to me a couple of days ago. Shout out to Brody for asking me this because I never really thought about it, or I've thought about it, but I've never just sat down and took the time to compose a list of my top five rappers of all time. So before I came up with the list, I thought of a criteria for picking my top five. So the first criteria I thought of was longevity in the game. How long were you able to sustain a relevant career in the game? Secondly, I thought about lyrics. And then I thought about subject matter. So what topics did you discuss? Uh, so think about the subject matter and range. Can you be relevant, or can you be still successful and still be able to go through a different styles of rap? So can you put a club record together? Can you put a philosophic record together, or something? A record, not philosophic. I want to say kind of like conscious rap. Can you put conscious rap together? Can you put club rap together? Can you put dark rap together, like emo rap, kind of, sort of? Can you be lyrical? Can you put together a record for like the youth? Can you put a record together made for the ladies? So being able to have that range is very important, I think, as a rapper or any artist, because you can touch so many different fan bases and you can relate to so many different crowds. And it shows that you are versatile and not just one dimensional, which I'll get into later. The kind of meaning of the one dimensional kind of rap, and what it means to one of my top five rappers. So when it comes to my top five rappers, before I give the list, I have them in no particular order. And I also must preface that when it comes to my list, I'm from the South. So some of the artists might be different, but most of the artists, there's only really one artist from the South on my whole list. But one artist might shock most people on the list. Um, but for the most part, a lot of these other rappers are in people's top fives. So, for obvious reasons, my first choice, but not in particular order, is Nas. Nas had a lot of influence for my love for hip hop and my ability to uh, just give other artists a listen and be able to kind of set the foundation for what a hip hop artist is and what I was expecting. So coming up from the South, I listened to a lot of 3 6 Mafia, a lot of Yo Gotti, a lot of local artists that were from Memphis, but they made a lot of club records. They made a lot of kind of drug hits. There wasn't a lot of conscious rap around, especially in the South or in Memphis. Maybe in the South, like Texas or somewhere like that. But in Memphis, it's a lot of trap music and a lot of gangster rap, which is still the same today. It's not a lot of conscious rap in Memphis or in Tennessee that I'm aware of. Um, so Nas, my first time listening to Nas, I want, like I said, I want to say it was my big brother Gary's CD, and I played it, and I heard a lot of good stuff about it. And when I listened to it, I instantly fell in love with the Illmatic album. But going back to his longevity in the game, I listened to Nas' first album, and it came out in '94. I'm pretty sure I didn't listen to it probably until late '90s, because I was only probably, yeah, I was around 7 around that time. So I listened to his first album, which came out in '94, and I was able to still listen to his albums today and still get that same kind of feeling. Now, it doesn't have the exact same feeling because I think when Illmatic came out, he wrote it when he was around 15 or 16. But now he's in his 50s. It's a different feel, different subject matter. But I was still to be able to to relate to his music and be a fan. So one of his favorite albums, other than Illmatic, that he put out, well, other than he had the Illmatic and he had It Was Written. Those two albums are easily his top two for me. But then he came out with the Untitled album, which he wanted to call the N word, but he ended up not doing it because they couldn't put it out that way. So, but the subject matter on is flawless, talking about how America is, talking about the cars. Like he had so much range in that album, and he was so relevant still in 2008 when that album released. And 2008 was um, a big time for music because I remember Lil Wayne Carter 3 came out during that time. Rick Ross came out. Jeezy had an album down that time. Everybody put out pretty much their best music in rap in '08 around that time. So that was a huge year. And for him to put out one of the best albums amongst all of those just showed, his longevity in the game. And then a lot of times too, it's not just his raps are so smooth and they're just and he has all these punchlines because that's not really his thing. His thing is making words connect. Like I tell people about rap and about why people are my favorite artists. It's not that you say a word or a phrase, it's how you say it. So a lot of times words might seem simple the way somebody says it, but for true artists and they can make words connect and make them sound so amazing, even though it's simple language. Um, like on one of Nas's songs, he said, "I sneak a Uzi in the island in my army jacket and lining." So that line seems plain, but the way he floated and way able to convey that line, it's just amazing. Like I said, once again, it's not that you say stuff; it's how you say it. So Nas is one of the artists I put in my top 5. So for the second artist, now this may shock a lot of people, but like I said, I got a Southern influence. Music makes you connect, and you remember. Well, I know for me, when I hear music, I still hear music today, and I can remember where I was when I heard it. So T.I. was a huge influence for hip hop when I was growing up. Like I said, he was mostly a trapper or a gangster rap music artist, but he had range. He just didn't give you just trap music and shoot this up and shoot that up. He has so much different aspects to his career, especially around the time that he was going through, the federal charges and stuff like that. So um, he can give you a trap song like Rubber Band Man, but he can also give you a club hit like Swagger Like Us. He can also give you the street stuff like the ASAPs and the 24s. Uh, he can give you the woman hits, the Whatever You Like and Let's Get Away. So, and then his flow is timeless, and he made music that was timeless. Um, I didn't just see him as one kind of artist. And he just recently came out, well, not recently, but maybe a few years back. It was a song called The Weekend with it was off the Libra album, I believe. And it was called The Weekend with Young Thug. And he said in the song, he said he always believed trap music was more than just when you cut in the key or when you selling your first, pack. It's about what happens when, that guy goes on vacation. What happened when that guy falls in love? What happened when that guy gets his first child? Because we know people are multifaceted and just not one thing. Why your music should reflect the same. So I thought that was real big and an eye opener for me for him to actually put it in that perspective. And he's always been a more of an intelligent artist. He had he used a lot of more complex, bigger words than most artists. He wasn't rapping in one flow. He would switch it up. Ti is a big, huge influence on me. So, um, and the next artist is Kendrick Lamar. Now, Kendrick Lamar, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, nobody listens to his music because he doesn't have a lot of radio play." But for me, a lot of artists I like never really had radio play. Up until now, Kendrick's, really never had radio play. But I'm more of an album guy. I don't really listen to singles before they come out. I'm not interested in singles when they come out. I used to be, but now I want to see your body of work. Pause. I want to be able to see the bigger picture. I don't want to see just one song and then most of the time when people come out with a song, it doesn't sound anything like the album. Like Usher came out with the Yeah song and the rest of the album was slow, had nothing to do with that club hit. So I want to see the music in its totality. So Kendrick is he's an album artist. Most of his albums are conceptually put together. They're built around a purpose. They're not just all over the place. He's gonna give you a certain theme, a certain type of production. His production is kind of like even keel. Is There's not like a club hit here, then you have like a gospel type song here, then you have a it's just it's consistent. So I always appreciated that about Kendrick, and he was so able to relate to um his situation, and you kind of get a reality of his life when he talked about his life. So on the song Rich Spirit, he said, I dropped my daughter off of school. I dropped my daughter off at school, then I pray for her because y'all ain't never been cool. So it kind of gives you, as a parent, it kind of I can relate to that because, it's so much crazy stuff going on in the world now because you have to, you know, trust other people with your children and be around your children, and it's tough. So Kendrick kind of, gave us a perspective into his thoughts in that. And even on the album, a lot of the times he was talking about his relationship with his father and how it was kind of tarnished. And then he was talking about how his relationship kind of molded his relationship with other people. So you get that kind of perspective and you kind of get that therapy. It's kind of like sit on the couch type music when you're talking to a therapist and they're kind of like going through everything with you. And even on the Rich Spirit video, it was kind of based around him and a therapist. So he always had that introspective music. And like I said, I'm a sucker for the introspective music. Like Most Def and Talib Kweli, but he was able to hit mainstream unlike those guys, but they set the foundation for him to be able to do that because they were kind of seen as backpack rappers and seen as just talking about the hippie type of stuff, and then Kendrick's label used to be Black Hippie too, so it kind of coincidentally fit in that same kind of category. Kendrick's always had that word play, and like I said, he's not a punchline rapper, but he just gives you the lyrics real, and he paints such a vivid picture. And then next, of course, uh, Jay-Z is one of my favorite artists because, like I said, he had that longevity in the game. He came out around the mid 90s and he's still putting out songs today. He hasn't dropped the album in a few years, but he's still relevant. Every time he puts out a song, I have to listen to it. Like I said, I'm not a singles guy. I like to listen to albums, but if Jay-Z puts out a song, I have to go listen to it because it's not often we get him now because, like I said, he has so many business ventures and it's more lucrative that way. And he just really doesn't have the time to commit to that type of artistry. Well, meanwhile, his wife does, but um, I think she's singing is a different. I think rap, his lyrical content and stuff like that. I think he's just too busy to do it, and he I don't think he has the love for it anymore. I think I want to say last week, 50 Cent, or earlier this week actually, 50 Cent said he doesn't put out music anymore because he don't want to have to dumb it down. A lot of music now is dance music, just pretty much one dimensional. 50 Cent, is mostly a gangster rapper, but for the most part, he's able to be a little bit diverse too. But his songs have never been like kind of simplistic or dumbed down, so to speak. So, but with Jay Z, like I said, his relevance and longevity in the game, and we know his wordplay is crazy. He was considered one of the best rappers of all time. He's in most people's top five. So um, it's an obvious pick for why would you pick Jay Z all the way from Reasonable Doubt all the way to 444 album. He never misses. He had one album that most people said were questionable, but there's still a bunch of slaps on that album. So, like I said, nobody would want to go against him in a versus battle for sure. And then lastly, obvious pick was Tupac, and I'll kind of go through why I picked Tupac over Biggie. Like I said, Tupac had more longevity. His work ethic was more crazy. He worked hard too, but at the same time, he liked to party and he was more dibbling and dabbling in different things. Tupac as well, he was the same, but like right before he thought he was gonna die, I think maybe 2 or 3 years before he died, he was putting out 2 songs a day, they said. So he was recording 2 songs a day. So when he died in 96 or 97, he was still putting out albums in '03, and people was like, man, how does he still got these songs? He has to be still alive. Now he just recorded so much music that he had so much in the vault or in the safe left that you could probably still put out some music today that nobody's ever heard. And his music was so timeless. He talked about, Dave Chappelle had a joke about when Tupac put out music and it was kind of describing things that happen today, which is still relevant today. When he said, we got money for wars, but we ain't got money to feed the poor. A lot of people feel that sentiment today, about we use resources and places, but we don't help our local people out in the community. So his music was timeless, and his music made you think he was still living. He just put the music out. So, like I said, and Tupac had that range. He could put out a Brenda's Got a Baby, or he could put out um, Keep Your Head Up. But then he can also give you a Hail Mary diss song, or he can give you a Hit 'em Up diss song. Like I said, he was able to put out so much different music, and he kind of talked about that on a documentary, from old footage that they had, when he talked about he had two sides to him. He had a loving side, and he had like a hateful side, kind of like a gangster side, and he can dibble and dabble between the two and still put out music from both sides. So he always gave you kind of a interesting perspective from an artist. And just to think about it, he only put out probably albums, probably maybe less than a 10-year span, but his music is, well, how much music you put out, you think he would have had a 20-year career. And if he was here today, I believe rap would be a lot different, and he would be a lot of influential. He'll be very influential to today's youth, and things might go a little bit different. So that's the only reason why I pretty much picked him over Biggie. Like I said, I think Biggie's lyrics was better, but Tupac has so much different. Uh, his work ethic was so crazy, and his longevity to the game was just so important. So I think that's why I picked him over that. Tupac over Biggie. So honorable mention, I had Jadakiss. Jadakiss, like I said, he's one of those guys. I like his lyrics and his cadence, and he has that raspy voice, unique voice that most artists don't have, other than maybe a DMX or somebody like that. But he had that artistry, and he had that pure hip hop to him. Lupe Fiasco was another artist that I had in my honorable mention. Lupe Fiasco came out around 06, 05. I was a freshman in college, and I remember him influenced me to actually skateboard. And when he came out with the kick push, but like I said, he had that range too, because he could put out a kick push, but he can put out, a lot of, uh, well, I wouldn't say gangster rap because he wasn't classified as that, but he can put conscious rap together, but he can put songs about stuff he liked and stuff that he had interest in, like the Hip Hop Saved My Life song. I still listen to that song today, and it just warms my heart from being a pure hip hop fan. Him talking about Slim Thug's career and how he had to sacrifice, and the people who helped him along the way to get where he wanted to get to. So Lupe Fiasco always has a special place in my heart when it comes to hip hop. Um, like I said, he didn't have a longevity, but like his first 2 or 3 albums I listened to, and then the newer songs now that he has, I just can't relate anymore. I don't know why. Maybe he just kind of lost the love for it or something, but I don't know. I might just have to go through and listen to him again. And then lastly, I know it's gonna shock a lot of people, I didn't have Lil Wayne in my top 5. And I didn't have Lil Wayne in my top 5 just for the simple fact of, like I said, longevity again. I think T.I.'s discography goes longer than Lil Wayne's, even though Lil Wayne might have more hits, but T.I. has more content, he has more substance, he has more, he was more consistent. Lil Wayne, like I said, he dibbled and dabbled in partying and stuff like that, so I think that affected his career. Now he's more of a kind of a mentor to the youth. Um, I know a lot of people were mad that he just didn't make the Super Bowl recently, but Lil Wayne is, if I had a top 10, he would definitely be in my top 10. He'd probably be number 6. But I just didn't put him in over those guys just because I felt like they had so much more range, they had so much longevity. But in 2008, nobody could see, well, for about 5-6 year period, nobody could see Lil Wayne from Carter 2 all the way probably to Carter 4. His, like I said, his punchlines were crazy, and I would listen to singles. Actually, he's probably the reason I stopped listening to singles, because every time he dropped a song and he was a feature, we knew it was going to be a hit, and we knew the lyrics were going to be crazy. So he's probably the reason why I don't listen to singles anymore, because he don't put them out like he used to. But I still listen for Lil Wayne songs, and just to see what new words he put together. So that was my top 5 of rappers and my honorable mention. So tell me, who are in your top 5 as rappers, and we'll discuss it later. All right. Well, thanks for tuning into another episode of the Urban Scope Podcast.